Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Unnamed Bracketology podcast. My name is Kerry Miller, joined as always by my good friend Graham Doran. Graham, we're on day 5 here. We're going strong. We get the day off tomorrow to just watch hoops. But how are you feeling about our venture thus far? I'm kind of enjoying these quick hitter single conferences, but I'm also looking forward to doing a little bit of a bigger wrap up on Sunday.
Yeah, I think the quick hitters are nice. It keeps us moving quickly, obviously, but I think it kind of keeps you focused throughout the week, which is kind of a nice thing for heading into our wrap up. Excited to talk about the SEC today.
And if anybody is watching this, you guys, if you're enjoying it, give us a like, give us a subscribe. I'll get that out of my mouth eventually. But if you don't like it, let us know. We're not married to any of these ideas. We can switch things up. One of these days we'll do some Q&A. But like Graham said, today is the SEC. I got to get this fired up. And there it is. And instead of talking about who our positive surprise is, because we all know the positive surprise is Vanderbilt, we're going to talk about how many losses do you think Vanderbilt will ultimately suffer? And I will say on KenPom, they are not projected to lose any games. That doesn't mean they're projected to go undefeated. Just means within the probability of each game, they're not supposed to lose any in particular. But what do you think their total is?
I think Vandy's probably looking at 5 or 6 losses. I know that's not what Ken Palm would say. I know that's not what Torvik would say. And I buy Vandy. I do think Vandy is the most likely team to win the SEC. I just look at them playing Florida soon. That's going to be a little bit more pressure packed of an environment at home. Sometimes it can actually be a little difficult to play at home when you have that home crowd showing up like they've never showed up before. And I think this Vandy home crowd will show up against the national champions. It almost might be a little bit too big of a home moment. We'll see how that goes. Then they go to Arkansas. I think that's a really dangerous trip. Still have to go to Missouri, play Auburn in the year against Tennessee. So I think a lot of at Kentucky, a lot of very difficult games ahead for Vandy. I do think they're going to win the SEC. I also think they're going to end up with probably about 5 losses on the year.
Yeah, I mean they have a lot of games that they have a 70% chance of winning. And, in theory they could win them all, but if you roll a three-sided die enough times, it's going to come up the wrong way eventually. So, yeah, I think it's probably 4 or 5. But like you, I believe in Vandy. I think they're probably the best team in the league. It's just even in what is compared to last year, a down year for the SEC, boy, it's really hard to go undefeated. I can't even remember who the last team was that went undefeated in a major conference. And I know Gonzaga did in 2021, but that's not a major conference. It's been a hot minute. I will say on Vandy, just before we move on, I thought it was interesting that after that win over Alabama, everybody was like, "Oh wow, now I believe in them." I honestly feel a little less confident in Vanderbilt after that because Alabama was without Aiden Sherrill. I mean, both literally and figuratively, that's a huge player missing for them. I mean, he's one of the best shot blockers in the country, one of the best offensive rebounders. LeBaron Philon missed almost the entire second half, and Vandy just barely held on. So I thought that was a weird narrative. But
Yeah, and, I do
yeah, go
think
ahead.
it's very interesting that to me, when I look at the teams Vandy's played, arguably the two most athletic teams they've played are Alabama and Memphis, and those are the two games they've struggled with the most in the schedule. And Memphis obviously isn't having a great year. Alabama was at home. I think that could be potentially something to look into in SEC play. Might that cause Vandy a little bit more problems than when they were playing some talented teams out of conference, but maybe not quite so athletic?
Yeah, and I mean, I love this backcourt. I was working on my National Player of the Year rankings, and I have Tyler Tanner and Kingston Flemings back to back. I was like, oh man, I'm tough to tell them apart. If you look at them on a per 100 possessions basis, they're almost identical. And I was like, boy, it'd be fun if they played each other. If you could get Tyler Tanner, Duke Miles, and Tyler Nickel going against Kingston Flemings, Miles Uzan, and Emmanuel Sharp, I'll take that Sweet 16 matchup any day of the week. But let's keep it rolling. Let's move on to the biggest negative surprise in the SEC. Are you going to go with Kentucky or Florida or the entire Magnolia State, or which direction are you going to go with this?
It's really interesting. I would have assumed my answer would probably be Kentucky, but when you talk about Ole Miss, I mean, I thought they were going to be contending for the tournament. Actually, preseason I had them as one of my last four in, so I had them going to Dayton in my preseason bracket. So it's not like I thought Ole Miss was going to be great. But the wheels have fallen off the bus entirely. Like just an absolute disaster of a season so far, and they really have next to no shot at an at-large bid already. And we're barely even to SEC play. Just did not expect that. Like Kentucky, I almost feel like their problems are a little overrated. Obviously, it's not going great. They still beat Indiana. They still beat St. John's. It's not like it's been, absolutely nothing of note. Ole Miss is really nothing of note. And if they have anything to note, it's the way that they're talking to each other in public. It's the way they're responding to each other as teammates, as colleagues. So just a really, really bad season for the guys at Ole Miss. And I just don't think it's going to get any better.
Yeah, so Ole Miss and Mississippi State were 24th and 26th on Ken Palm to open the season. And now here they are over here as bad losses. Certainly Ole Miss more so than Mississippi State. Ole Miss is 134, 120, 119 in the resume metrics right now. I mean, that's just absolutely terrible. They are one of two teams in this conference without a quad one win, which segues beautifully into our next question. Are you buying Georgia for real? We both have them here in an 8-9 matchup right now, just based on what they've done, but they don't have a marquee win. They're one of these classic teams. No bad losses, no great wins. What do you think about Georgia? I mean, I called them out like 2 weeks into the season as the team that was going to be this year's metric darling that just blew out teams by like 50 and isn't actually that good, but maybe sneaks in as a result.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to be a team that ends up sneaking into the tournament. I don't buy them as a real legitimate threat. I actually, as I was going through taking a look at their profile, they're 13-2. Their qualitative average is 30.7. So that kind of looks like an 8 seed, maybe even a 7 seed when you look at it that way. But I just don't buy them. Like there was a,
Yeah.
a real eye test part of this where I just don't buy it. And so I actually did kind of move them down a little bit based on that alone.
Yeah, I thought if they had won that game against Florida, all of a sudden you almost have to take them seriously, even for like a 4 or 5 seed. But not only did they not win that game, they looked hideous in that game. I think they lost it by like 15. Um, Speaking of Florida, that would be my answer to this question. Who is the toughest team in the SEC for you to seed right now?
Florida is challenging for me, but I would actually say it's Tennessee because I see some of the results that Tennessee's gotten beating Houston in the Players era. Obviously, fantastic result there. Louisville on paper they beat Louisville convincingly. Michael Brown was out in that game for Louisville, so I'm not sure how much I buy that result, especially in Knoxville. I think Tennessee has been so up and down that I'm having a hard time seeding them, and I ended up moving them to a 6 seed. I see you have them as a 5 seed, but I think there's an argument they should be even lower than that.
Yeah, they're 20 overall for me, so they're my lowest 5 seed. I thought about dropping them to a 6, but I forget who I had at 21 overall. They lost recently, and just that kind of ruled that out. But yeah, they 34.7 in the resume metrics. That does not scream 5, 6 seed. That says 9, 10 seed. So we'll see where they end up going from here. Uh, Game of the week in the SEC. We've got 8 of them on Saturday per always. I think literally every Saturday they'll play 8 games. I love that they do that. But you could go Saturday or you could go Tuesday or Wednesday. Which game in the next 7 days in the SEC has you most excited?
I mean, if we're trying to talk Saturday, I think it's that Tennessee Florida game because one of those teams will get a big win and start to move up that seed list pretty well. But really, the game that I'm looking at is the one between Missouri and Auburn. And why I say that is I look at both of these teams as true bubble teams, not just now, but into the future. I think they're both going to be on that bubble pretty much all year. So this is a game where I see the winner is probably a little bit more likely than not to make the tournament, and the loser is probably a little more likely than not to not make the tournament. I think it's huge stakes when Missouri and Auburn meet.
Yeah, I feel the same about this the Texas A&M Oklahoma game. I feel like even though we now have Oklahoma kind of off the board entirely. That's a key opportunity for them. Or Texas A&M can prove. I think that's more of a play out game than a play in game, which the one you were talking about is more so in that you know stratosphere level. And I forgot, and you even texted me. We got to talk about Kentucky or Auburn, right? If you had to pick one, who's going to make the tournament? I still think it's Kentucky. I feel like Auburn's been pretty inconsistent, but both of these teams, as you mentioned, are 2-6 against quads 1 and 2, and I'll let you take it from there. Which one are you backing?
Yeah, I think it's Kentucky is the one that's more likely to make the tournament. They've looked absolutely awful at times, and I think that's been baked into their metrics, right? They have looked absolutely dreadful at times, but they've also looked pretty good at times. I don't think Auburn's highs have been nearly that good. The caveat here is Kentucky's wheels could fall off the bus much more than Auburn's. And what I mean by that is when you're playing at Rupp Arena and you're playing for those fans in Kentucky, Kentucky basketball is life. It also means Kentucky basketball is all over social media. You can't go anywhere without people talking about Kentucky basketball. If there's any heat on you, it's going to be heard consistently every single day. How are they going to handle that pressure? Do I think Kentucky's a better basketball team than Auburn? Yes, I do. I think they have a lot more potential? Yes, I do. Do I think the wheels could really fall off spectacularly if they don't handle the pressure? Yes. So I do think Kentucky's the more likely one to make the tournament, but I also think things could go worse for them than they will for Auburn.
I would agree with all of that. I'm surprised that, Kentucky got those 2 wins over Indiana and St. John's. We really thought that was the turning point for them because Jaden Quaidens was back, Jalen Lowe was back, Mohamed Diabate was back. And they turn around and lose at home to Missouri. What was their other SEC loss? I assume it's on here. No, North Carolina, Michigan State. Who did they lose the other one to? Alabama? Yeah, at Alabama. So, yeah, 0-2 in the SEC for I think I saw it was the first time in like 15 years or something. Not going well. Saw there was something about Mark Pope was saying he like some semi-suicidal thoughts. I assume he was kind of joking with that, but my God, it is not fun to be coaching at Kentucky. But that'll do it for the SEC talk today. Enjoy. What do we got? Miami, Ohio against Toledo. That's the the marquee game on Friday. That'll always be the case on Fridays, it seems. But until next time, enjoy the hoops.